Okay, we are now live. And hi, everybody. My name's Ronnie from Equine Voices. And tonight's special guest is Warwick Schiller. And I am so excited. I'm beyond excited. In fact, I've got boulders rolling around in my tummy at the minute, so I'm trying to keep them down. So I'm going to introduce Warwick, and he can explain who he is, what it is he does, his life, how he started his life with horses and the training, and where he is today, and his experiences that have brought him to where he is at this present time. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to bring on Warwick.
G'day, Ronnie. How's it going?
Hi, I'm fine. I'm a little bit shaky, but I'm fine. I'm fine.
I'm a little bit shaky too.
Oh, bless you. So if you'd like to, so for people that don't know who you are, okay, so just tell us a little bit about where you was before you came to the States, and then what it is that you wanted to do. So you want to do horse training. So the floor's yours. Off you go.
It's a pretty short story. I grew up on a 1,200 acre sheep and wheat farm in Australia. We always had horses. Rode horses as a kid. I probably started riding when I was about 7, I'm thinking. And ended up really getting into the quarter horses, so the Western type riding. Started out in Pony Club, and always had a fascination with the Western horse in America. So I always wanted to kind of come to America at some point in time. And when I was about 23, I got the opportunity to come over here. I originally came over for a year, and got a job within 2 weeks working for a horse trainer. And I thought that was, I was just going to learn how to train horses. Reining was what I was interested in at the time. I thought I wanted to just learn how to train reining horses, a little bit about training. You can't learn how to do it in a year, but learn a little bit about training reining horses, and I'd go home and just play with my horses. And when I was, after a year working for this guy, I was on the porch leaving. The day I was leaving, we shook hands, and he said, "If you want to come back, I'll give you a job." He said, "Because you could do this for a living if you wanted to." And for me, I've never really had a whole lot of self-confidence. I wasn't a big thinker. I was probably a big dreamer, but I wasn't it was kind of dreaming, not believing really. But when he said that, I thought, well, that's interesting, So and my wife, I'd met her that year. She wasn't my wife at the time. I chased her and she ran like a scolded cat. But so when I went back to Australia, I had that job offer. And then after I moved back to Australia, my wife, I guess she missed me chasing her around, and her letters got nicer. And so that was in 1991. And so I came back in 1992, and apart from a 4-year stint in Australia, I've been here since then.
Wow, that's brilliant. I like the bit about chasing. And then she got nicer with the letters.
Yeah, she did. She missed me chasing her.
Oh, because Robin is a horse. She deals with horses in her own right, so she's a skilled horsewoman herself, isn't she?
Yeah, she's been riding. She always says she's been riding since before she could walk, because her mum had her on the front of the horse with her before she could walk. So she's probably been riding longer than I have.
Oh, bless. So I'm just going to just explain to people that I was so lucky that I had the chance to meet you, and I think you said it was quite a few years ago. I can't remember what year. You came to Sovereign Quarter Horse and you was doing a clinic, and before then I was aware of you from YouTube, which you've got a big following on YouTube. You've got a big following anyway, and you have lots of videos that people can have guidance with, so they can look at the videos and they can get help even if they can't sort of have somebody to hand. So that's why I was looking myself, and I like the way that you seem to be around the horses, and obviously when you're looking at things, you get a perspective from what you see, but you don't actually know the real person. So I think it was the local radio station, and they was advertising you can win a ticket to go see Warwick Schiller, and my ears just pricked up when I was hoovering at the time. So
really,
I was like, yeah,
the local radio station,
a local radio station, and I
didn't know about that.
I was thinking, oh my God. And it said, oh, if you go onto their Facebook page, you could win an auditor's ticket. And I thought, I never win anything, but it's worth a try. So you just had to put your name down basically and say why you wanted to win a ticket. And to my surprise, I got this email saying, "Congratulations, you've won an auditor's ticket to go see Warwick." And I was like, "Oh my God." And I think it's about a 2-hour drive to where I was going to come and see you. And I turned up and I walked into Sovereign Quarter Horse, and they had lots of work done. So I think the arena was a lot bigger, because I know it from a little while ago. And I walked in the building thinking, well, I'm not sure where I'm supposed to go, but I know the arena's that way. And I sort of stuck my head around this office, and you were stood in there with a Stetson, obviously dressed as you do. And I goes, "Oh, hi, are you Warwick Schiller?" I mean, what a thing to say.
Good
and you
question.
said, "I know," and you said yes, and you just put your hand out and says, "Yes, I am." So I said, "Oh, hi, I'm Ronnie. I've won a ticket just to come and see you. I thought I'd say hello." And you introduced me to Tyler, and you were so humble and so nice in that 5-minute meeting. I just thought, my goodness, this guy's a nice guy. He's not up himself. He's just approachable. And then I said, right, I'm going to leave you to get on with what you're going to do. You've got a busy day. I'll go sit down. So I was watching you with the horses. And to be honest, I can't remember a lot about what I saw, but what I remember is you shaking my hand and making me feel very welcome. And I remember that to this day. So to me,
that's a very cool story.
You came across to me, my gut was telling me, this is a nice person. This is a genuine person. So I wanted to share that with you, because has stuck with me. Yeah, and I've got another story to share, but I'll do that a little bit later on. So you was in your 20s when you came over. So we're just going to go a little bit back. If you explain to people, so who was Warwick then? So you came to the States and you got this amazing opportunity. As far as working with the horses, what sort of process was you thinking of looking at? Where was you then? Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, there's probably a couple of different ways. As far as with the horses, I could ride, but I had no idea about training. I had no idea about breaking things down to steps and having a process. I could, I'd been riding all my life and could kind of get things done with horses, but I didn't really have a process. It was probably, maybe at the time, it was maybe a bit more intuition than it was process. And then, after I started training horses, I probably got too much away from the intuition and spent the next 25 years just learning more about process. And luckily, here about 6 years ago, so it would have been after I met you, my wife bought, so that was probably 2013 or 14, something like that. Yeah, luckily my wife bought a horse that he was a reining horse, and he was a very, very talented horse, but they couldn't, in the reining deal, what they call get him shown. Like, they couldn't show off all his talents that he could do in the show ring because of various reasons. He would spook at the judges' chairs and things like that. And at the time I had probably, I don't know, 15 million views on my YouTube channel, and I was doing clinics all around the world, like where I met you, things like that. And so I'm kind of thinking, yeah, I know what the hell I'm talking about. And I said, buy the horse, I can fix that. Thinking I could fix most anything at the time. And yeah, the spooking at the judges' chairs and stuff, that wasn't a big deal. But this horse just had a level of being inside his own head, like a level of shutdown that I actually couldn't help him be any different. And so it was really good. He was really good for me, because at that point in time, I'd been traveling around the world. I'm doing clinics all over the place, and I help people with their horses, and the horses come in and they leave better. The people leave with more knowledge. And so I thought I could fix everything. And I also thought at the time that training was, training techniques, I was always learning more stuff, but I'd been learning more about just more subtle training techniques, but they were still training techniques, you know what I mean? And this horse, training techniques didn't make him better. And so I kind of stepped away from trying to change him. I just kind of left him who he was. But it really kind of opened my eyes to looking at probably at things, ways of working with horses that I hadn't considered before, because I thought, that's for the crazy cat ladies, and that's like the people that can't do anything with horses. Yeah, okay, they're horses, they're a good friend or whatever, but they can't do anything with horses. So why would I want to look at that? But yeah, long story short, it kind of took me down a bit of a path that basically changed my life. I look at the world completely differently than I did when I met you, whenever it was, 7 years ago or whatever. Not just horses, but life in general. So yeah, that and one of the things that horse did, he was very shut down, but he kind of led me to, over a period of time, start to understand how shut down I was, and how I'd been basically dissociating from the world for a very long time, like such a long time that I had no idea I was doing it, because I had never really been any other way. So he kind of changed my life, really. But yeah, definitely changed my life, but led me on a bit of a new direction. And it's funny when I was a kind of a mainstream sort of a horse trainer, and I started getting more into some woo-woo stuff, and at the time, I didn't think, oh, will this be good for business or whatever. It was just what I was interested in. And basically the general public could have rejected me and thought this guy's turned into a bit of a whack job, but it actually didn't turn out that way. It turned out that everybody was wishing there was a bit more of that out there. Anyway, so it was good for business, but there was nothing I've ever done has been about business. I haven't been much of a planner, and I've always been a follow my nose, kind of whatever opportunities the universe provides for me, sort of thing. And I decided to be a horse trainer, but as far as like doing clinics and making videos, I didn't decide to do that. A series of circumstances came along that led me to doing that, but I didn't. The people said you need to do this, and they wanted me to do it, but I didn't decide and go, hey, I think I should go around the world and do clinics, or I think I should make videos. I mentioned before, we lived in Australia for a short period of time, for 4 years, from the end of 2006 to the end of 2010. And while we were there, we were on the board of Reining Australia, which is the governing body of the sport of reining in Australia. And we only got on the board to help out. And there's a big horse expo in Melbourne, Australia, called Equitana. And at one of the board meetings, they said, oh, Equitana wants someone to do a reining demo. Can anybody take the time to go down and do that? And I said, well, I probably live closest. I was about 8 hours away from Melbourne. Australia's a big place. And so I said, yeah, I'll go down and do a reining demo down there. And when Equitana heard I was coming down there, they said, well, we have this big, this colt starting competition called Way of the Horse. Would you like to be the in-arena color commentator, like commentating what's actually going on? And I said, oh yeah, I can do that. So I did that. And the Way of the Horse thing, there's probably 3,000 or 4,000 people in there 3 days in a row during that thing. And so I got to talk for 2 or 3 hours 3 days in a row to 3,000 or 4,000 people, and explain what these other guys were doing with their horses. And after that, I had a lot of phone calls, people going, hey, we heard you at Equitana and love the way you explain stuff. Would you like to come and do a clinic? And I'm like, well, I've never really thought of doing clinics before, but yeah, if you want me to do one, I can do one. But that, like I said before, I've never really had a whole lot of self-confidence. So I wasn't the guy who was going to go, yeah, I think I know what I'm talking about, and I'm going to start doing clinics. And so then that was probably the last couple of years we were in Australia. And so by the time we moved back to the US in the end of 2010, I'd done enough clinics to realize that quite a few people struggle with their horses, probably because they have just a lack of understanding about how horses' minds work, and how you can do, and there's some simple things you can do, simple ways you can look at things that make it a whole lot easier. And so when we came back to the US, my wife got her old job back. She was in human resources. And I had to start training horses all over again. I didn't have too many horses in training, and I had some time. And so I just started making these little videos on my phone, really, putting them on Facebook and on YouTube about different things you can do to get along with your horse a little easier. And at the time, I don't know if it's the same now, but at the time, until you had a certain number of views on your YouTube channel, they wouldn't let you put videos more than 10 minutes long. I guess they don't want, like 6 hours of your cat chasing a laser pointer up and down the hallway or something. But people wanted longer videos. And so I had to go and find this online video hosting site that I had to pay money to host the videos on. And so I started charging people to watch these videos. And basically that's my business these days, is an online video platform plus clinics. Pre-COVID, clinics is part of it, and the online video platform is the other part of it. But neither of those two things were because I said, yeah, I think I should do this. Both of those things came about because other people wanted it and asked me to do it. But if you go back far enough, and this is a life lesson that, it's if you're religious, it's in the Bible, if you, whatever. But those two things came about giving with no thought of anything in return. Those three things: going on the board of Reining Australia, I wasn't trying to get anything out of it. It was a pain in my backside to do it. But then going to the Horse Expo, volunteering to go to the Horse Expo, just to help out. That's where all the clinic stuff came from. And then trying to make these little videos to help people understand their horses a little bit better. Then the other thing came from that. But there was no, like, I had a guy I was on a guy's podcast last year. He has a podcast called Horse Biz or something like that. It's about the horse business. And he's trying to pick my brain about, so what's your business plan and how did you strategize? And I'm like, there wasn't any of that. I was a horse trainer. That was my business. All this other stuff was just stuff that I was doing on the side to help people, and it just evolved. I mean, there was no plan, especially there was no, you know what? A lot of the people that follow people like me are females between the age of 35 and 65, because that's what the demographic is. It's a big peak in the middle there. And they're all probably looking for spiritual enlightenment. So why don't I go down that path? There was no ulterior motives or anything. It was just kind of what I felt I should be doing at the time. And it's worked out quite well. And it's funny how life works out, because that, none of that, there wasn't a plan to do any of that stuff.
Which is, yeah. And that's what's so wonderful about it. And it wouldn't have worked if that would have been your attitude, or it might have worked, but the rewards might have not been what you wanted, or there would have been a bit of a payback somewhere or something. But that's what I love about your podcast. So obviously, for people that don't know, Warwick does amazing podcasts, and I tend to listen to those on my way in the car. I'm usually in the car when I'm listening to podcasts, and I love them. But I love them because they are horse related. But for me, I love them because of how raw you are, how authentic you just, if you're feeling like you want to cry or you get emotional, you say it as it comes. And I love that. It's very authentic, and it's very encouraging, because you're not putting on a mask. I mean, that's how I'm perceiving you. So obviously you're a stranger to me. I only know you from what I see and hear, but my gut is telling me that you're a genuine guy, and what you share and show is because you genuinely want people to be enlightened, to be informed, and to find another way. And it's not that you're saying this is what you should do, but you're sharing your experiences, and I love it. And sometimes I'd been going through my own stuff, and I'd because we're all on a journey. I know it sounds really cliche, but we're all trying to get to be the best that we possibly can. And a lot of that is working on yourself. In fact, most of it's working on yourself. And when you work on yourself, your horses improve. Sometimes the things that are wrong with your horses dissolve because you've worked on yourself, but not always, I know. And I would be working on something on myself, and I've got lots of good friends that work with the mind, and they've helped me as well. So I come at this from a sort of scientific and also spiritual and intuitive and energy. I don't call it, for me, it's energy. That's because that's how I talk. It's comfortable how I talk. I don't call it the almighty, it's the universe, because it just sits comfortable for me. And I'd be listening to your podcast, and I'd be driving to work, usually late, by the way. I'm always 5 minutes late. And I'd be driving to work, and there'd be a point where you said something, and it would be like, oh my God, that was me last week. And I'd be wanted to pull over and listen to it again. And I think I can't, I'm late for work. And I would be like, that was me. I know what, because you'd say something like, you'd explain what happened. You'd say, I'm not sure if you'd understand, or I'm not sure if this is the right way you'd say it, but you maybe won't understand what I'm talking about. I'd be going, no, I do, because that's happened to me, Warwick. And then I'd get to work and I'd be absolutely buzzing. And I thought, oh my God. And then the same thing would happen again. This kept happening. So it's almost like I was having an epiphany, something was happening, and you was saying what would happen to you, but yours had happened maybe a little while before. But it was like the universe was saying, there you go, Ronnie, you're on the right path. And that's why I was getting excited. So I love your podcast. For me, it's the story of the people that you interview and their synchronicities and where their journey is and how they got there, and opportunities came up. And when you look back, there's lots of opportunities, but you don't always recognize them, even the ones that don't necessarily want. So yeah, I love your podcasts. Absolutely love them.
Yeah, thank you. I've just been very lucky. I've had amazing guests on there, and the podcast wasn't really, it's called the Journey On Podcast, but it wasn't really meant to. I don't know what it was meant to be, but my wife said, you should start doing a podcast, and she actually wanted me to do it kind of like almost like a call-in radio show, like people call, like pre-record people messages asking questions about their horses, and I kind of answer them. And the first episode I did was called Changes, and it was basically about the way I look at things now versus the way I had looked at things for a very long time. And that was the first one. I think that one's probably had the most downloads of any podcast I've done. And then the second one was more about that, and it was called The Science of Connection. I think it was about polyvagal theory and all that sort of stuff. And then I had a guest, and I forget who it was. It might have been Jane Pike. I can't remember, but I had someone, a friend of mine, who's just amazing. And that podcast was like eye-opening. And then I got another guest who was just amazing, another guest who was amazing. And some of the people I've had on there, I know them, and some of the people I've never met them before, but I've listened to them afterwards too, because when you're in that conversation, you can't stop and think about what they just said. You're back and forth, you're in the conversation, but some of them, like, I don't know if you listened to the one with Nashawn Cook or Rupert Isaacson.
Yes,
but
I did.
I listened to them 2 or 3 times, and afterwards, and I'd have to press pause and like sit and stare at the wall for a while, especially with those two. I mean, a lot of the people, it's been like that. But what I really have been trying to do with those guests is, like, some of them are like well-known horse people, but trying to get to the stuff they don't talk about in their horse training stuff that they might keep to themselves, but is an integral part of that. And there's a lady named Karen Rolfe. So Karen Rolfe was a dressage trainer here in the US, and then she got into more of the horsemanshipy side of stuff and discovered that. Now she has a website called Dressage Naturally. Really cool lady. And I knew of her, but I didn't know her. And I got her on the podcast, and I thought this is just going to be about, how she was an uptight dressage lady, and then she kind of got more into the horsemanshipy thing and how maybe that's changed her life or whatever. But even before that bit, we haven't got to that bit, and she's talking about how she was in Mexico on the top of the Temple of the Sun with the shaman who could make himself disappear and reappear and yada yada. I'm like, whoa, you are the exact right person for the podcast. It's like people like that just show up all the time. It's pretty crazy. I'm really into shamanic stuff these days. So indigenous healing and indigenous wisdom, and I'm into all that stuff these days.
Yeah, I heard. I've obviously from listening to your podcast, but it's because of you. It's actually, we're doing this tonight because you gave me inspiration. So doing interviews came about. I used to belong. I still belong to a group. It's. I think it was on lockdown, and it was a group of people that just want to sort of meet up and talk about their experiences and where they'd want to go, or it's just like a platform so you can have a play around. So if somebody wanted to try and practice their intuition, they could sort of go there and they could do it comfortably without being judged, but still get feedback. And it's just a lovely community. And the lady that runs the group used to do, it's called Go Live Wednesday. And what she would say, right, go live and just talk about yourself and your experiences. Now, I'm one for, I've got, like in my phone, I've got thousands of pictures of horses, mainly my horse, by the way. And there's very few pictures of me because I don't like pictures of me. And she says, oh, you can do a recording or you can go live. So I remember in the stable and I thought, right, I'm going to record something. I don't know what I was saying, I'm going to record something. And I pressed record and I was right, okay, here we go. And I started talking and thought, no, I don't like that. Do it again. Here we go again. No, I don't like that. I'll do it again. And I did this about 5 times. I think, oh, for God's sake, just press the bloody button. So I pressed live and I was like, oh, I'm live. And so I goes, oh, hi, I'm Ronnie. And I introduced myself. And then as I was talking, because I do communication with intuitively with the horses. As I was talking, the same feeling came. So there was I knew I was information was coming through, and it was basically just nothing like, wow, that was an amazing speech. It was just to say who you are, and don't be afraid to show people, the real you. And it was just a little chit chat. And I come off and my heart was going boom, 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 boom. I was thinking, oh my God, I need to delete that. And then I got some feedback. And as much as it scared bejesus out of me, I actually liked it. So I did this a few times. And there was moments when I would show my rawness as well. I was talking about something and I was telling people that don't give up. And I can't remember what it's talking about, but it was quite emotional. So I was showing my emotional, but it wasn't sad. It was just, don't give up on your intuition. It's there. It's telling you to don't just settle, move forward. And this is what I was trying to say to people. Only you can do this. So take a few steps forward now. And this is how I got onto this. So that experience, and somebody actually joined me to this group. I didn't really know anything about it. And I can remember thinking, I don't know what I'm doing here. It's not my sort of thing. But boy, was it my sort of thing, because it's got me to do this. And this is such a treat to chat to people like yourself. And I virtually asked them, and I'm very humbled and very, very grateful that they reply and say, when they say yes, it's just lovely, absolutely lovely. And I listened to your podcast with Nashon. Is that how you say it? And I was in the car driving home, and it was the Sunday, and I remember listening to it, and I pulled up outside, and I sat there, and it was like, wow. And then I did a little post. I was saying, you've got to listen to this guy. I've listened to Warwick. There's something about him, and it's not so much the words, it's the energy, it's vibration of what his words are sending out. And I came and sat on the sofa, and I was sat there for about 10 minutes in a day thinking, I know there's been a shift in me because it feels different, because I know when my energy changes. And he's shifted something, and I don't know what it is, and I can't prove it. But the conversation that you had, his vibration is I think it's more than he realizes, probably. And that sounds very biblical, but it's not meant to. But
no, biblical is the right word. Like I have said on numerous occasions after that interview with Nashon Cook, I felt like I was the witness to the Sermon on the Mount, or I was listening to a prophet.
Yes. Yeah. I'm glad you said that.
That's what it felt like. But then there was at some point in time he said something, and I said, "Can you say that again?" And he goes, "No," because it's almost like he was downloading stuff from somewhere,
Yeah.
like channeling something. Because he all start off on not a rant, but a long soliloquy about something or other. But he's not thinking about it. It's just coming out of him, and he's only 33 years old, I think. And I mean, I remember when I asked him how old you are, and he said, I'm 33. And I said, "You sure you're not 3,300? You know, like, yeah, he was. You are not the only person who's told me that listening to that podcast with Nishan Cook changed something in them. I mean, changed something in me, but I mean, I've heard that a lot. He's there's something else that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. He's on a vibration of, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think he's a certain kind of person, but he also had, we've all had life experiences, but his, probably remember him saying this on the podcast, but his mentor when he was in college was Martin Luther King's speechwriter.
I mean, that's a, yeah. How do you talk about that? Yeah.
Yeah, but him and Rupert Isaacson were probably for me the most mind-boggling ones. I mean, they were all great, but Rupert Isaacson, he was like lived wisdom wise, and Nishan Cook was like channeling something from somewhere wise,
And he's such a humble guy. As he talks, he's very great. He's very grateful about his opportunities, and when he talks, that it comes. It's very, very from the heart. He's not saying it, and it's there. You can feel the depths that it's pulling from his heart, and it's yeah, you can feel that.
I think that guy has no walls up. Like he's just fully open. It's all right there.
Yeah. Right, we've got a few. There's a few people, so I'm just going to. Can you see these, by the way? These
I
comments?
was just having a look at
Yeah.
them.
So
Kay Hammond. So Kay Hammond said, "Has he got plans to come to the UK in 2022?" I do. I had plans to come to the UK in 2020, but it didn't work. So yeah, I'm trying to. I haven't organised them yet, but I'd like to. So the last time I was in the UK was 2019. I did a clinic in East Sussex, and then I did one in Shropshire, I think, and then I went somewhere else, and then I went over to Yorkshire, I think, and then I went up to just above Edinburgh. But I plan to do something similar, like crisscross all over the place. Probably in the summer, probably in July or August, about the same time I did it before. So we don't have them organised yet, but yeah, we're planning on that.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Well, I don't know if we're out of the woodwork yet, as far as like Europe is now having a fourth wave of COVID, and
yeah, I know.
Yeah, Australia has just opened back up, and I usually go to Australia 4 or 5 times a year to do clinics, but Rob and I are going to go back in January to visit my family, just because I haven't seen them for 2 years. But I won't be doing any clinics then yet, because in Australia, I don't think you can actually cross the border from one state to the other.
Okay.
Maybe we can get into Kiso International. Where is that?
Kiso, where's that one?
Kay Hammond.
Okay. Oh, yeah, Kay. She's Kay's a lovely lady. She does equine massage.
Oh, cool.
And she's such a kind lady. So Kiso, remind me to tell you a story about that. That's another synchronicity. Kiso is about it's an indoor arena. They have an outdoor arena as well, and they do dressage and show jumping and things. And they have camps there. They have like summer camps where you can take your horses and stay for like 3 nights, and you get to have teachers and have a go at jumping. There's cross country, there's a big massive cross country course, and you build up your confidence so you can do as little or as much as you want. So I'll tell you a story about that in a second, but I'm just going to let so here's Kathy. Obviously she's a friend of yours. I don't know, can you see that
Kathy,
one?
yeah, right there. Sorry, I was looking over on the side. Yeah. Hey Kathy, how's it going?
So Kathy's another synchronicity. I don't know if you want to tell me, if you want me to tell you all these stories.
Oh,
So I'll tell
I'll
you.
hear all about synchronicities,
So
especially when they got to do with Kathy, because Kathy's very synchronicity as person.
Kathy, I didn't know her because I've done an interview with her, and I didn't know her, and so I run a little group, and it's just a small group of lovely people, and we do like meditations and stuff, which has gone from the group that I was talking about earlier. I've sort of gone off on my own little thing, which has given me experience with this, how to talk to people and how this works. Because this was all new to me, so I'm doing this. I'm doing the editing, I'm doing everything, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it. So one of the girls in the group who lives in the States, in Texas, sent me a photograph. She'd taken a photograph of her glasses, and there was some water droplets on it. And I got this message about 5 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, okay, I'll look at that later. And then when I got up, I looked at it, and she says, what do you see? And I looked, and I thought it looked like a yin and yang symbol with the 2 dots. And I said, well, it looks like a balance symbol, a yin and yang. And she says, yeah. And then she says something else. Bearing in mind, this was what she saw on her glasses, but she sent it to the group. Okay. So it was what she saw and her experience. And I think it was later that day, I was looking on the internet, and Kathy's site came up, and I was looking for some help with my horse. And I looked at it, I thought, oh, okay, read it a little bit. And then I went on to the reviews. And when I looked onto the reviews, in between her reviews was a symbol, and it was a yin and yang symbol. And I was like, okay, I'm listening. I thought, right. So I sent her an email, and I just says, hi, you don't know me, but for some reason I feel I've got things to tell you, or I need to talk to you. Sent her the email. She just happened to be sat at a desk, and she sent me an email straight back. And she said, oh my goodness, I need to talk to you. So I said, oh, well, I'm just driving to my horse, so I'll speak on the way. And we was chatting, and I said, I've no idea, but I'm guided to you because of something I saw. And again, bearing in mind, this photograph was not something that I saw. It was from somebody else that had passed it to me. So that could have been ignored because it was somebody else's sign. But I saw that, so I recognized, okay, that's the sign. And we was talking, and then as we were talking about the horses, and I can't remember what it happened, but I linked into Teasel and just passed on whatever Teasel said. And she said, oh, I didn't realize you did that. And so I said, oh, well, does it make sense? And she was like, yeah. And so we talked a bit more, and she kindly gave my horse a session, which was lovely because she needed that. I'm just going to do that way. So that was a synchronicity. And then I got her on and did an interview with her. So that was just from somebody sending me a photograph of a speck of water droplet on their spectacles. And from that came the connection to Kathy. And yeah.
She's lovely, isn't she?
She is. She's a lovely lady. A lovely lady. There's a lady here, sorry, I'll just say this and then you can carry on, Warwick. Jane listens to your podcast.
Oh, cool. Yeah, like I said, that podcast has just taken a life of its own. We're actually coming up on 1 million downloads on that thing.
Wow.
We're about 50,000 away, I think. So yeah, that's pretty exciting. I kind of I don't really pay too much attention to like the numbers and stuff like that, But here recently, my son said, "Oh, have a look at the stats on the podcast." And so I looked at that, and so then I'm like, well, I wonder, I said, is that a little or is that a lot? He goes, oh, I think it's a lot. He said, have a look at, like, research how many podcasts have had over 1 million downloads. And so I looked at it, and we're like in the top, I don't know, less than 1%, more, in the top less than 1% of all podcasts of any variety, which is just kind of mind boggling. But it's also, it's also cool because, you know, like the podcast is not about horse training. There's plenty of places you can find
Mm.
someone's opinion on how you should train your horse. You know, the podcast is really more about the journey, really about connection, about synchronicities, about energy, all of that sort of stuff. And it's so exciting that so many people are, you know, interested in that sort of thing. That's you know, that's what excites me these days.
And it's a huge platform. And the thing is, if the universe wants to get a message out, which actually comes from us, you know, our true beings, that things have to change and look at things differently, they need a voice and they need a platform. And the bigger it is, the better, you know, the better, even if it's one person that you touch, that one person has a conversation with somebody else. What are you laughing at?
Just when you said if the universe wants to get a message out there, I'll tell you a crazy story. You've probably heard this on one of my podcasts, but a few years ago, my wife went to Canada and did an equine assisted learning course because she wanted to, you know, use the horses for some sort of equine assisted learning stuff, you know, self-development through horses. And so she organized a clinic here over on the coast. We're about 45 minutes from the coast of California here, with some other ladies, and they're all quite woo-woo as well. And while she was over there, they said, have you seen Denise yet? And Robin's like, Denise? Who the hell's Denise? And they said, oh, you got to go see Denise. And gave, you know the story I'm going to tell, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Gave Robin this phone number to call. So she calls this lady and, hi, this is Denise. And Robin said, oh, you know, Amber and so-and-so said, I got to come see you. I'm like, okay. Any friend of theirs, a friend of mine, come see me. So she makes an appointment to go see this lady. And it turns out this lady is an astrologer. And I think I was in Australia doing clinics at the time. And, you know, the next time I call Robin from Australia, she goes, you wouldn't believe what happened, but I went and saw this astrologer. I'm like, really? Because we're not really into astrology. Well, at least I wasn't. And she said, you wouldn't believe what this lady can tell from my stars. And she said she recorded the whole thing. So when you get home, you need to listen to it. So I got back from Australia and listened to it. And I'm like, wow, I need to go see this Denise lady. So I go and see Denise. I want to see what the stars say. So she wants your time of birth, place of birth, date of birth. Anyway, I go and see her, and she's looking at the charts, and she goes, oh, wow, this is interesting. Oh, you don't see this very often. Oh, you know. And I'm like, what? And she goes, it says here you're a wounded. And this was only a couple of years ago. So this is when I really got into, you know, like personal growth and energy and synchronicity and all that sort of stuff, you know. And I'd been getting a bit more away from mainstream training and more into some woo-woo stuff. And she says, it says here that in your stars, from the time you've been born, your whole purpose here on this planet is to gather a large group of people and lead them towards consciousness. And I'm like, oh, shit, that's a bit heavy. You know, I'm just a horse trainer. And at the time, I was kind of believing her when she said it. But after I left there, I'm like, nah, she Googled me. You know, I've got a name that no one else has. I mean, when you Google Warwick Schiller, there is only one. So I bet she Googled me. I bet she's full of crap. You know, she's Googled me. So I kind of wrote it off and thought, no, that can't be my purpose here. That's too big a deal for me. And so about 2 months later, I was in Michigan doing some clinics, and the only thing I know about Michigan, which is a state here in the US, is that the two most dangerous cities in the US are in Michigan, Flint, Michigan, Detroit, Michigan. Now, I wasn't in either of those two, but, you know, so I got done with the clinic on Sunday night and went to dinner with the clinic organizer, and we stayed at dinner and talked for quite a while. And I left there about 10:30 and had about an hour's drive back to my hotel. And I had to leave early the next morning. So I had to leave the hotel at, I don't know, 4 o'clock to drive to the major airport to fly out. And I realized I had to put petrol in the car because I had not paid for the petrol when I bought it, when I rented the car. I thought, well, I really should do that tonight. Otherwise, I'll have to get up at like 2:30 in the morning sort of thing. And so I'm looking for a petrol station on the way back, and I end up in this seedy part of town in this like industrial neighborhood, and I find this petrol station open. So I pull in there, and there's probably, I don't know, 5 or 6, 20-year-old African-American males standing around in various states of saggy pants and scary looking, and I'm not much of an urban dweller, so that just freaked me the hell out. And so I jumped out and I wanted to pump the petrol, and I jumped out and I swiped my card, but then I couldn't get the petrol cap on the car open. I'm like, shit, and where's the button? And maybe it's the keys. And I messed around there for a while. And in the end, I'm like, forget it. I'll pay a lot of money for a tank of petrol. I don't care. And I jumped back in the car. I went to drive off. And as I did, there was a right on the window beside my head. And I turned and look, and there's this black guy right there with this big neck tattoo and a bit of skin off one eye right there in the window. And I looked at him and thought, oh. And he kind of stepped back and put his hands up, and he said something like, I don't mean you any harm, mister, but he didn't have, like, the voice didn't match what he looked like, because he looked like he'd have some sort of a ghetto, low socioeconomic type way of speaking, but it sounded educated. It was just like a bit of a juxtaposition sort of thing. And so I rolled the window down a bit, and I said, can I help you? And he goes, I don't mean to harm you, but can I just tell you a story? And he had like an educated accent. He said, I'm a gospel singer from Alabama, and I've come up here to help build a church, but it got called off, and there was some miscommunication, and I don't have any money, and I've been sleeping rough for a couple of nights, and I just need $19 to get a room. I've almost got enough money, but I need another $19 to get a room. And he sounded pretty genuine by this point in time. I'm thinking, yeah, I'm going to give him some money. And he said he has a degree in religious studies from some university in the South, and like I said, sounded educated. Regardless of his exterior, what came out of him was a little Nashon cookish, And so I turned the car off and I rolled the window down, and I said, I'm Warwick, and I shook hands through the window, and he shook hands with me, and we're looking each other in the eye. And then he, as we're shaking hands, he starts to sing, and he's right. He's a gospel singer, and he can sing. And there's like this deserted petrol station in the middle of the night. It's about 11:30 or so now. There's not much of a sound around except this guy's singing, and he's singing like he's pretty good a cappella. And so it's kind of mesmerizing. So we're not shaking hands anymore, but I don't let go. We're like just holding hands, and I'm looking him in the eye, and he's looking me in the eye, and it doesn't feel weird. And he sings this whole gospel song. It goes on for about 3 or 4 minutes, and we're just looking at each other in the eye, holding hands through the window. He finishes this gospel song, and then he starts to pray. And he's praying for me, and we're still holding hands, looking at each other in the eye, holding hands through the window. And he prays for, 4 or 5 minutes. And then he finishes his prayer, and he kind of looks at me like he had a bit of a download or something. And he goes, I don't know what you do for a living, mister, but he said, your whole purpose here on this earth is to gather tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people, and lead those people towards God. And I'm like, and then he says, and he leans forward and he goes, but the only thing holding you back is your fear. And I'm like, shit, you got me in one, like, and I'm the rental car I've got is like the smallest rental car you can get. It's not like I'm driving a Mercedes or something or other, I'm just look like this in a little rental car. And he says that. And anyway, in the end, I gave him $100, said, get a good night's sleep, get some food, good luck on your journey, whatever. But I drove out of there, and I drove half a block down the road, and I pulled over, and I was like, holy cow, what just happened then? And I think I wrote the whole story out and texted my son Tyler, and yeah, so that, like you're talking about if the universe wants you to get a message, it'll give you a message. Well, the universe gave me the message from Denise, but I blew it off. So if you blow off a message like that,
But
you'll get it in a much more well, it kind of came in a scary fashion, but
where you have to listen to it.
Listen the first time, they'll make you listen the second time. Yeah.
But that's life, isn't it? If they want you to do, I want to say they. For me, my belief, it's everybody's connected, so it's you that's trying to show you. Come on, you can do this. And I have conversations with myself, and sometimes I'll go, okay, what are you trying to tell me? Because you've got to give me it like that, otherwise I'm not going to get it. And I sort of have these conversations, and or something will happen, I'll go, oh God, all right, I'm listening. What is it you want? But I just love the synchronicities and when something happens. But I'm going to tell you just a little story about a friend. She's in the States, actually. She's just gone to the States. And her name's Sue. And I was working at Kiso. So I had a client and she organised these camps, summer camps. And she said to me, will you come do some, will you come do some communication at the camp? And I said, well, how what do you want me to do? What's your plan? What is it you want to sort of achieve? So she said, oh, well, if I get you, say five, it depends who's interested, 5 or 6 people, and you do 15 minutes each host, just say whatever comes, and it's a taster. It's so they can have experiences of a little massage and things like that, so they get tasters of different things. So I was like, I have no idea if that worked, because I normally have to. Before I used to think, right, I've got to concentrate, I've got to focus, I've got to just clear my mind, I've got to do this. I don't do that now. I just get in the car. As soon as I'm driving, it's like, right, we're in. She's not focusing on anything else. She's only got one thing to focus on. So they come in, and I says, well, let's go for like 20 minutes but do it in like half-hour bookings. So if I go over 10 minutes, then that's okay, because it depends what comes up. And I think the first camp I did, I'd got 8, then it went up to 10 horses. And I was like, holy shit, how am I going to do that? What if I get there, nothing happens? And I'd be driving there, my hands were really clammy. I was going, oh my God, and what if it doesn't work? What am I going to do? And my heart was going boom, 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 boom. And I just got in time for the first one by the skin of my teeth. And I thought, right, I've got a list of who I'm going to see. Just take a breath and get in there. And I went in to see the first one, and that went okay. And then I went to see the second one, and that went okay. And by the third one, I was like, it's working. And it did. It was always what's relevant and what was needed on the day, or what was going on with the person on the day, because my work is very much to do with the person. It's 90% the person, and the horse wants me to sort the person out so they can sort of take a breath sometimes.
Mine too.
But so that's how it works. But so that was my first introduction to camp, and it did work. And it was like, okay. And it was really funny, because sometimes there would be a pattern, there would be a similar thing going through each one, not everyone, but there would be a similar pattern, because I'd be saying, oh, okay, I hope the next person doesn't think I'm just saying the same thing. And I would sort of say a few things the same, but it would have a different feeling with it. And then when I chatted to them afterwards, because we go for coffee, they all seemed pleased, and they all, there was it fitted in well what they needed. And one day I saw a lady, lovely lady, and she says, "Oh, can you come and see my horse?" So I went to see the horse, because they'd all been in like little cubicles, and was chatting away, and we came out and a chat afterwards, and she says, "So, who would you recommend for me to help with my horses? Who would you recommend?" And I stood there, and in my head I was thinking, well, there's only 2 people I'd recommend, and that's Mark Rashid and Warwick Schiller. But that's highly unlikely, isn't it? Because not in this country. So I says, oh, perhaps if you get somebody that's recommended, somebody that's sympathetic, not come in there and sort your horse out. It's about listening to the horse and trust that your horse knows if that's the right person. So she was like, okay. Anyway, we went for a coffee. It was lunchtime, so we all went for coffee. And we sat outside around this big round table. It was a really sunny, beautiful day. And I was just listening to him chatting, and she says, "Oh, I've got to go to Heathrow and pick Mark up in a couple of days." And my ears pricked up. And I went, and she's, "Yeah, because I'm organising it. I've got to pick him up and get ready for the clinic." And I was like, "That wouldn't be Mark Rashid by any chance, would it?" And she went, "Yeah, I'm organising the clinic." I went, oh my God. I said, he was the first person in my mind that I was going to recommend, but I thought that's not going to happen. So, and she says, oh yeah, I organise in his clinic in the UK. I was like, holy Moses, how, who writes this stuff? So I was going, I would love to meet him. I've read his books, and I would really like to meet him. So she got me later, and she says, well, I've got another 2 horses. How about you come and see them, and I'll get you a ticket to come and see him. So that's what happened. So that was universe going, there you go, Ronnie, that's for you. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah, and she's out there at the minute. She's with Mark and Chrissy, so she's spending some time with them. But that was
Chris. I just spent the weekend with Mark and Chrissy here recently, and Chrissy
Yeah.
is lovely.
She's
Like
lovely.
her and I really hit it off. Like last night, she messaged me, "Have you read this book?" Like, yeah, I read. Like we're trading book stuff back and forth. But yeah, she's lovely. I mean, Mark was great too, but I really hit it off with Chrissy. We had a lot in common.
She's a very quiet lady, isn't she? She's very observant. She watches. I mean, I only know her a little bit from, but again, she was another person that was very kind and welcoming. But that was just an opportunity that was provided, that came along. Because I mean, what is the chance of that? But it was so funny. I was thinking, well, it's either Warwick but you're not going to meet them. She was organising the trip.
Of course it does.
Of course it does. So there's just a few. So Amanda, she's saying that she subscribed to you. She was led by Kathy. So fun to found these people. Absolutely. Yeah, we've got quite a few comments. So Jane, the lady that came on earlier, I don't know if she's still here. She works with horses. She works with people and horses, and she works very much with energy. She goes in, and when I say healing, that's a funny word because people think you're going to cure them of everything without taking responsibility for things. But she does work with energy, and she always says, it's not me. I just turn up and whatever comes through. But she does people, and she does very, sick people.
And Sam Granger's up early because Sam is in Australia.
Oh, here we go. Sam. Thank you, everybody that's coming on, by the way, and saying hi to Warwick. I really appreciate that. It's so nice. There's quite a few. There's some of you that we don't know who you are, because I think you have to get permission from Facebook, because this is StreamYard. You just have to click on the permission so that they can use your photograph.
Oh no, it's not that early. It's not that early in Australia. It's 8 o'clock on Saturday morning, so it's not that early.
Okay. So what time is it where you are?
It is 1 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon.
Okay. So do you know Sam?
Yeah. I've spent quite a bit of time around Sam.
Okay.
She's lovely.
I'm just going to go back to my notes and see what else. So tell us about your horses. Tell us about. So you've got Bundy, and I know a little bit from your videos, Sherlock and Bundy. And is it Chance? Is he the new baby?
Well, Chance is not really a new baby because he's 2 now. Well, he's 2. Yeah.
He's 2.
2.5.
Yeah.
Rupert is the new baby. Rupert probably 6 months old now, I think.
Oh, that's the one that you sat down and he come and lied with you.
Put his head in my lap, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have, I don't know how many we have now, 9, I think. So we have Petey and Oscar. So they're the 2 older horses that Robin and I showed at the World Equestrian Games in the Reining 3 years ago. Bundy, we probably had him the longest because I bought him as a yearling. And then we have Sherlock, and Sherlock's my sensei. He's the one that taught me a lot. And then we have another horse named Ray. So he's a stallion. We've seen pictures of him with a big white head on him. Good morning, Sue from Australia. And we bought him last year, and he was like Sherlock, to where he was very, very, very shut down, like very efficiently shut down. Like he worked well, like there's no behavioral issues, except he's just kind of in his head. And so it was good when we got him because I knew how to get him out of that. And he's an interesting character because I think he's had some traumatic stuff, and he's deaf too. He's deaf as a post. And so, I haven't got him figured out yet. There's still some weird things in there that I'm not in a hurry to try to sort out because I'm not sure how to address them. But yeah, he's got some weird stuff. So he's an interesting little character. Who else do we have?
Sorry, sorry, Warwick, to interrupt you. As you were talking about the new horse, sorry, what was the name of that horse again? The last one you
Ray.
used,
Ray.
Ray. So he's the one that's deaf.
Mm-hmm.
So as you were talking about Ray, the picture he was giving me in his head, which is a little bit funny, is almost, the only way I can describe it is, so if you was listening to somebody in a foreign language and you was trying to decipher it, obviously you're listening, and you, in your head you was trying to translate it into English. There's almost like two halves trying to communicate with it, trying to exchange. And this is a picture that he's given me, but it's more on a the only way I can describe it is it's on a sound levels, because he's talking about sound, which is a bit strange because he's just said he's deaf. So I don't know what he's meaning from that.
You know, it's interesting. I had, you know, when you have almost 1 million downloads on your podcast, you do get some people who message you and say, oh, I should be on your podcast. I don't think I've ever had anybody on my podcast who messaged me and said, I should be on your podcast. But there was a lady messaged me, and she's some sort of an animal communicator, and she said, I should be on your podcast, and she's got this really great story about how she had a near-death experience, and then after that she could get communication from animals and stuff, and the story's great. And she said, I tell you what, I will give you a free session. I'm like, sure. So I chose Ray. Now the weird thing about him is he spooks at things sometimes, and those things, it always has to do with things taller than him. Like the first horse show we took him to, there was a building, and it's a standstill building, and he walked almost all the way up to it, but then started freaking out, like in the worst way. Sometimes trail riding him around the neighborhood, if we go past a tree, he'll kind of grab his ass and scoot. He's scooted past a stop sign the other day. You know what I mean? We don't blanket him now, rug him now, because he's out in the pasture with Oscar. But when we first got him, and American rugs don't have, a lot of them don't have front straps, so you just put it over their head. And with him, if you picked it up too high, he would freak out and run to the back of his stall and like bounce off the wall, sort of thing. So it's got something to do with high. And so this lady, she said, so what would you like to know? You know, she was telling me all this stuff that didn't sound anything like Ray. And I said, well, he spooks at some things. Can you? And I'm not sure what he spooks at, because I'm not sure what he spooks at. I know it's got something to do with tall things, high things, but I'm not sure what. I can't pin it down. And so I wasn't being dishonest. I said he spooks, but I can't tell what he spooks at. And she said it had nothing to do with being high. It had nothing to do with height. And then she said, and it's not his eyesight, because his eyesight's perfectly fine. I said, well, how's his hearing? She goes, oh, he hears perfectly fine. And so right then I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm not having you on my podcast. You know, you tell me he hears perfectly fine, but we know he's as deaf as a post. And she gave me some other thing about the spooking thing. So it was interesting, because with me, because we have a lot of stuff on social media or whatever, it's hard to find someone who doesn't know anything about our horses. And so it's really hard to go, well, do they know what they're talking about? Or they just, you know, kind of like when I didn't believe Denise, because obviously she's looked me up or whatever, you know what I mean? But this lady was interesting. Like she couldn't nail the spooky thing. She gave me some other completely random excuse that had nothing to do with it. And also that, she said, oh, he's perfectly fine. So I don't think that lady's going to be on the podcast, even though the story was great. Because, you know, one of the podcasts I did was on manifesting and animal communicators. And I had some experience with some animal communicators years ago that were just spooky. But as you would probably know, everybody's an animal communicator. You know what I mean? Like,
yes, it's intuitive.
But the thing is, some people are really good at it, and some people think they're really good at it. And trying to decipher between the two, and especially, like I said, being in the public eye a bit, people know quite a bit about our horses. So it's kind of hard to find someone where like the first one I ever used that really amazed the hell out of me. I told her nothing. She knew nothing about the horses. I gave her nothing, and she gave me everything. And it was like, she didn't fish, but I've had quite a few that that fish. Like, well, how old is he? And what is he like? You know, like they ask all the questions and kind of fill in the blanks. But yeah, I really would love to find the original one that I did a podcast about, because she was something else.
Can you not find her?
No, I can't find her.
No.
I'd like to find someone like her. You know what? Like I said, I want to try to find someone who knows nothing about any of our horses.
Yeah. It's
And
kind of,
sorry, go ahead.
as a communicator, so this is just me speaking about me, because I can never talk about anybody else, because I don't know how they work. It's because we all work in our own way. So my training is self-taught, and it was my own horse that got me into this, because I wanted to fix her, make her all okay and everything sorted, and I thought she could only tell me. And because I belonged to, I had friends that we used to do like group sessions and get-togethers, and for me it was just for the tea and cake, really, because I love tea and cake. So, and I used to be thinking, sat there and would do a meditation. And you think, oh God, I never get anything. And I'd sit there, and then we'd talk about what came through into our head. And to my amazement, everybody was the same. I'd be saying something, and it wasn't people that I knew always what I knew. And they'd say, oh yeah, that's relevant. And you say, oh really? So believing in yourself is a big thing. It's about believing in yourself, but also there's a thin line between saying what you want to say and then feeling that people are going to judge you, and then is it ego, and is it this, that, and the other, and you end up sort of talking yourself out of things. So getting back to talking about things that, I used to go in the stable and I used to go, right, I've got my eyes shut, because I used to go out practicing on friends. I would go sit in the field and write down whatever came into my head, and I'd have a notebook, and I used to sort of just look around, and then if my eye was drawn to a horse, I'd write down whatever came in and the colour of the horse, and then afterwards I would say, does that mean anything? And it was like chit chat, really. It was just it was conversations that their owner would sort of know about. It's changed since then, because it's evolved into its own thing. And I'd pass messages on, but I would go into the stable zone. I don't want to be influenced by what I see, so I'm going to stand there with my eyes closed. And I thought, actually, it's not quite a safe thing to do around horses. So I thought, no, I'll skip that bit. But I didn't want to be influenced. And sometimes, to the point, I'd be saying about the animal, because they could be a female, a mare, but they would have a masculine energy, and I would give it as this. And then I'd forget, and I'd have to go, oh yeah, it's a mare. and because I didn't look at them, I didn't scan them, and I didn't look at every knock and bolt. I would just give whatever it was. And for me, I found out it was very much not about the past. It was about now and how to move forward. So if people wanted to know what had happened to them, I would get whatever the horses wanted to share if it was relevant. I wouldn't ask for it, because I found actually that takes a lot of time and energy, and what they want, they don't want to talk about the past. They want to change things now. So for me personally, it's very much, that's where my work is. I go in, I explain it, and it's about now. I can ask a question, whether they get the answer is another matter, but it's usually aimed at maybe the person, and sort of to help them see what they probably see already and feel, but they just need somebody else to maybe point it out, and to give them the encouragement to say, you do know your horse, so trust that feeling, because your horse is telling you when you get it right. And it's lovely to encourage somebody else to experience something, and then to get back to you and say, it's changed. I can. There's a connection now. Something's changed. And I say, yeah, but you've done that. All I've done is facilitated it and pointed you in the right direction. And sometimes you get to see animals that are ready to go, and that I always think of that as an honour. And again, I don't always know until I'm there why I'm going. But what happens is when I get in my car and I put the radio on, some music comes on, and depending on the music, it gives me a bit of a clue. If it's melancholy music, I'm like, okay, who am I going to see today? What's going to happen today? So I do get sort of bits of clues, but I only get the information that I need, no more, no less. So I'm not going to paint the whole picture of any animal. It's what's important at that time, and if that person starts to cry and they let go, that's it. That might be all that's needed, is just them to let go of something. I went to see it. Sorry, I'm taking on your time. It should be you talking.
This
Warwick.
is your podcast. Let's hear it.
I know, but it's you that I wanted to chat to. I went to see a lady. I won't mention the name. She was an absolutely lovely lady, and she got this beautiful horse. And it was again, it was quite a way, so I pulled up, and I always say, "Oh, do you know anything about animal communication?" And this lady said, "Oh yeah." And she said, "So I had somebody a couple of weeks ago." So I was like, because before I used to think, what right have I got to do this work? Who's going to believe me? Because if somebody else was mentioned, I could feel myself. I don't do that now. So I said, okay. I said, so you don't feel that you got your answer? And she's like, no. So I said, okay, so I'll explain how it works. You might not get all your answers. It might not be what you want to hear. I said, but I promise I'll give you everything I do from my heart. And there's, I can only give you that. I don't make it fit. It's whatever comes out, and that's it. Do you still want me to carry on? And she says, yes, please. So we went in and we sort of saw the horse. And as we went through, it was quite obvious, bless her, that she'd got so much going on in her life, and she was a riding instructor, so there was a big pressure that she had to be seen to be the perfect model for what she teaches, which isn't always the case in life. But she'd got so much going on, and I says, you've just got to sort yourself out and help yourself, because you're so overloaded with all this stuff that your poor horse can't cope with his insecurities and yours too. And it almost gave her permission to go, okay, and to take a breath and just to take a step back and just to take the pressure off. And she sent me a lovely message a few weeks ago saying that just to let me know that that she'd got some help, and things were a turnaround. Things were going in the right direction, which was lovely, because that's what it's about at the end of the day. It's about helping somebody help themselves, not going there saying I do this. It's about speaking from your heart, and I don't always have to know what it is and why I'm there. I just know there's been a shift in energy. It might be a tiny shift, but I know there's been a shift, and the person knows that, and the horse, because they go off and they lick and chew and they take a breath, and they might walk out on 3 legs, but they're a lot happier.
Yeah, I really, that's the big thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I really think that horses are here to help us. And, I think everybody that has a horse is learning stuff from them. Sometimes, sometimes they're just basic life lessons, and sometimes I think it's deeper stuff. But I think the cool thing about horses is the deeper you want to go, the deeper they will take you, sort of thing. There's no end to it. You can, you can keep going down that rabbit hole forever. It's not like, oh, well, I've learned all I'm going to learn from this horse, sort of thing.
Absolutely. I'm just looking at the time, and I'm conscious that I've got your time. I don't want to, if you're happy to chat about anything else.
Ask away.
Because I know it's Thanksgiving tomorrow, isn't it?
It is Thanksgiving tomorrow.
Thanksgiving. Okay, so I'm just seeing what else I've got written down. Oh, do you know what? Yeah, I'm going to do this one. Okay. And I've done this with one other person, but it came into my head today. I was thinking, really? Okay, I'll go with it. So if you could go back in time, Warwick, what I want you to do is don't overthink about it. I want you to think about the first age that pops into your head. go back in time and speak to that young man, and the age will be relevant to who you need to talk to. Okay, and I want you to see that person in your mind's eye, to feel that person, which is you, and just say what you know now. What would you need to say to that person to encourage them?
I've been through this so many times in therapy, it's not funny.
Oh, sorry. Do you want to just skip that one?
No, I can definitely go there.
But so the age that pops into your head now, because that's
Well,
relevant
see,
to what needs.
I don't have a lot. I think, yeah, I don't have a lot of memories from when I was younger, and I think a lot of people had different traumas have that too. But yeah, I mean, there's a number of different things. But for me personally, I'd be going back to, probably a 4 or 5-year-old me, and teaching myself how to be brave, how to, yeah, I'd say I'd be teaching myself how to be brave, and that doesn't mean reckless or anything like that, but yeah, I think that's what it'd be, because I think that would, I think that's what it would be, because a lot of the the self-judgment and all the self-loathing and stuff that you assemble over a lifetime of stuff comes back a lot to that. And yeah, I think that probably would be where I would go. But yeah.
So when you say brave, do you mean brave in speaking up for yourself, or just being
All of the above.
confident in yourself?
All of the above.
All of that. Yeah.
All of the above. Like growing up in the the generation of, oh well, boys don't show fear, boys don't cry, whatever. So you learn to hide that when you are afraid and stuff. But instead of being able to talk about it and work through it, you just got to shut up. But then there's also the era that I grew up in is the children are seen and not heard sort of thing. So you kind of don't have a bit of a voice. And then also the parenting style. Everybody, this is not my parents. Every parent around at the time had the parenting style of stop crying or give you something to cry about. And that I read a meme on Facebook here a little while ago, and it said, when your parents said stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about, you thought they're going to hit you, but instead they were going to give you a lifetime of mental illness.
Wow, that's actually that's a statement.
Yeah, because the thing, the thing that comes out of that stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about mentality, or parenting style, is the child is concerned about something. They have a genuine concern to them. Might not seem like a genuine concern to the parent, but it's a genuine concern to them about something, and they need someone to support them. And when the parent says stop crying about that, or I'll give you something to cry about, you're kind of like, I'm screwed. This thing over here scares me, and the one person that I want to back me up is threatened to scare me even worse than the thing that scares me. And I don't, and doing a lot of inner work and going to like I went to a men's emotional resilience retreat last year, and it all so there was 8 of us at this retreat, and like one of them was a former UN hostage negotiator. So he's on the badass end of the scale. And the other one was this very sensitive filmmaker type dude. He's on the other end of the scale, and everything in between. And when they really kind of ripped us apart and got to the guts of the whole thing, it was every single one of us needed to feel like we were enough. And every single one of us felt like we've never had a support system. It didn't matter who it was, where you grew up, what you did in life or whatever, whether you were sensitive or aggressive or whatever you were, it was all the same thing. And I think it's a and that whole stop crying and give you something to cry about parenting style, that I've really come to that's why I do a lot of things different with horses these days, because I think a lot of times good horse trainers are very good at getting the horses to not show what concerns them, teaching the horse to not show what concerns them, instead of allowing them to show what concerns them and working through it. So I've really changed a lot of stuff about how I go about with horses these days. These days I'm really big on allowing the horse to say no. No is valuable information. No is not right or wrong. No's no, and they're allowed to say no. And so, yeah, for me, the whole journey has really been like a journey like in my mental health has really kind of been a parallel to the horses. And there's a lady that I had on the podcast. She's a trauma therapist from Canada named Sarah Schlotti, and she has a website. It's called Equusoma, Equusoma.
Yeah,
But she has a blog on there about training styles and whether you are a full-on negative reinforcement person or a full-on positive reinforcement person. It talks about the life experiences you've probably had to choose one of those. And a lot of times your traumas are the reason you do a certain thing. And like the people that say only do positive reinforcement and think that everybody that puts any pressure on any horse is barbaric sort of thing. She asked the question like, so were you not ever given a voice? And yada, yada, yada. And it's amazing to just answer those questions and like, oh, yeah, there's so much of my upbringing and so much of my trauma in my choices of how I choose to interact with my horse. And you really tend to project that stuff onto them. And when you find you stop projecting that onto them, you find that maybe the problem isn't the horse.
Yeah, I have a friend that helped me. She helped me get over some hurdles. So I had a fear of a fear. I had a block which stopped me getting back on to my horse. And when I say, for me, riding would be sat on my horse walking in a circle around the field, and that would be like I've won the lottery, because she's 20 and I've had her since she was 4, and she came and I thought she was more school than she was, and she wasn't. So she went off for some training, and when she came back, she had some other issues, and then I found out she had something called shivers. So I didn't know a lot about it then. So I thought, right, I'm not going to ride her. I'm not getting on her because I don't know enough about it. I know now that I should have kept going. But what that did is it allowed me all this time, so I didn't get on my horse, which, as I'm saying that now, that's probably what I wanted. I don't mean I made her sick, but that was something in there, me. So, I don't have to get on her now. So when I finally did want to get on my horse, I didn't have the money to send her off anywhere or get anybody in. So I used to use clicker training as play. And that taught me so much with her that we could interact, and I would spend lots of time with her. And we got to play and we got to do things, but getting on her nearly. But as I got to that point of knowing I'm going to sit on my horse, my legs would be like jelly, and all my energy would just flood out, and I'd be like, I just can't get past that. And I had people that came out and helped me to get on her, because I needed to get a saddle. So, and the only way I could do that is getting on her, and I got on her. But I knew that if I didn't do that every day, that block would be back, because it's not gone, it's there. And my friend, she's an animal communicator as well, actually, and she decided she wanted to work with the mind. So she does lots of things now, and she used to practice on me, and I actually loved it, because you could sit in the chair. She was starting to ask questions, and even before she got to the question, I would say to her, I know the answer to that is no, because my body is getting uncomfortable. It's starting to twitch, it's like it's shifting because it knows something's coming, it's got to answer. And she hadn't even said what it was. So we used to play around with this. And we eventually got that. Anyway, she helped me with that. And so I went out, did my normal thing, and I thought, right, I'm going to take my bareback pad and put my barrel next to her and click her to come up to the barrel, which she did. And she'd look at me, and I get on, and I used to practice leg off, leg on, leg off. And she'd look round as if to say, are you getting on or what? And I'd be like, oh, she's looking at me. does she not want me to get on? And then in the end, it'd be like, oh, she wants me to get on. So I got on and I sat there and I thought, oh my God, I've done it. There's no jelly legs. I've done it. And it was, for me, it was the most amazing thing, because I'd watch people go by riding the horses and I thought, I just want to sit on Toots, you know, I want to feel part of her. And the next stage was taking that step forward. And I was thinking, I don't think I can do that bit. I'm going to have to move my horse. And I goes, right, I'll go out the next day. I'll get my bareback pad. I'll put it on. I'm just going to sit on her. And I sat on her, and then it was like, okay, Toot, shall we just walk forward? And her ears were like, come on then. And she walked off and I was going, oh, we're doing it, Toots. And she's like, tick, 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 with her ears. And it was just, to anybody else, it was like, for God's sake, it's taking you 10 years to get there, girl. But because of her, I'm doing this. And actually, as I'm speaking, I can feel emotion, because I love her so much. And she's given me so, so much. And because of her, I'm doing things that I wouldn't have even dreamt of. And we've still got a journey, and I don't know where it's going to go, but she's with me for life until it's her time to go, because that's a promise I made to her. And I love her so much. And she's still helping me in so many other ways. So, yeah, I thought I'd just share that with you.
You know, I think that's the great thing. I said it before, but I think that's the great thing about horses is wherever you're at, they will help you with stuff. The thing you tend to find in the horse world is people tend to be very judgmental of someone who's not in the same place they're at. Like you said, people were walking by like, why don't you ride your horse? They're at the place where they're confident riding their horse. You're at the place where you're working on that. And that's something I would like to see change, is just people let people be where they're at and view things the way they view it, because, you know, everybody is right. Everybody is right as far as the way you view the world is the sum total of every experience you've ever had since you were born, and possibly before you were born. You know what I mean? And to say someone is not looking at something the right way is to deny them the fact that they're not in the same place you're at. You know what I mean? And so for me, I'm kind of lucky, because I spent, 48 years of my life looking at the world some way, and then flipped a big switch. And it's not that long ago that I looked at the world a different way, and especially the world of interacting with horses. And at the time, I was right. And I was right because it worked. Like, I was doing clinics around the world. I was training horses. People liked the videos. I had positive feedback, blah, 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 blah. I was right at the time. I wasn't wrong because it was working for me. But now I look back like, yeah, I look at things totally different now. And so for me, it's not that long ago, you know what I mean, that I was looking at things a certain way and I was sure I was right. And I was right at the time. For the way I looked at the world, I was right. And so that's I really, I don't let it annoy me, because otherwise I'd go crazy, but just people judging other people about where they're at on their journey. That's denying that you've got your own journey, especially like if someone's further along the journey. And I think there is a linear, not necessarily linear, but let's say it's a linear path. Okay. Because, for instance, the way I look at things now, there's no going back. So I do think it's a higher level of whatever. It's more connected or whatever. But so I think, it only goes one way. It doesn't go the other way. And if you look at somebody else who's not as far on the journey as you and you judge them, well, you're judging yourself when you're in that place, because we've all been in whatever that place is. And I think people forget where they came from and forget the fact that, everybody's on their own journey. And it is what it is.
Yeah.
And that would, there's just, there's in the horse world, there's a whole lot of judgment about what everybody else is doing, for some reason.
I think at times I put pressure on myself because because people know me, the people that know me for what I do. Sometimes I'd be ashamed, and I'm saying that word, and it's like it's there, so it needs to come up. Because how can you give advice to people, even though it's coming from somewhere else, and then this is me judging me. This is not what people were saying to me, but this is me judging me, and do that, and then go home and not get that with your own horse. I do get it, and the communication is there, but it's not always quite the same because my emotion baggage comes into it. I remember one day, this was quite a few years ago, I was sat in the paddock, and I'd often sit in the paddock for hours with Toots, and I felt so bad for her that I wasn't able, I'm sorry, to give her a life that she deserved. And I was sat in the chair, and I had my hands in my head, in my hands, and I felt this nose on my shoulder, and it just flowed. And I've got it written somewhere, but I can't remember what it is. And she was just basically saying, I hear you, and I love you for what you are, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm okay. There was more to it than that, but I went home and I just wrote it all down, and it was beautiful. It was just beautiful. But yeah, I used to feel bad for her. I like I said, I wanted to fix it, and I actually had to let that go because that was a block. Me wanted to make her okay, because in her head she was okay. I was adding to it though, because I wanted, the sparks were coming off me, and it was like, for God's sake, sort yourself out, girl, before you sort me out. Now, she has got physical stuff, as we all do, but if I bring with it this, I need to help you, it doesn't work. I have to almost take an emotional step back and be just in that tap moment, which it's funny, a few days ago, she gave me a big lesson again. And as soon as I said, right, I know what's happening, she just changed. So she teaches me all the time. I get off track with my own emotions, and it's usually when something's happened. But I do always blame me. I always look, it's something I'm doing. So I always look at myself. I can't always change it straight away, because I have to work it out, and then synchronicities and something happen. And I was asking for an answer to something, and I thought, I'm asking 5 questions. No wonder they can't bloody answer me. So I just need to know what's the first thing I need to do, so I can maybe sort the other bits out. And I asked the question, and then I was sat in the field with a head torch on in the middle of it was dark where we are, reading Dr. Susan Sacred Spaces book, and it was the first paragraph about the mind in your head, the mind in your heart, and the mind in your stomach. And because of what's happened, because her herd's moved away, her friends have moved away, and it was like, boom, it's her stomach. Her stomach at the minute is ruling her. That's why she's reacting the way she is. And she's finding it hard to switch from that to the rational. And it came. So hopefully what I've just done now is that first bit of what I asked. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing you have to be careful of is, like a minute ago you said, yeah, I blame me, not her. I probably want to change that word to not blame,
Yeah.
because you'll judge yourself.
Yeah.
But I mean, understanding, yeah, something going on with me, it's not her. That's one thing. But when you put it as blame, it's like you're the problem. and I don't think you're the problem. There may be some work to do there, but you try not to look at it as bad. It's just information. It's just,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's and that whole judgment thing is quite hard. But that, I was reading Jay Shetty's book, Think Like a Monk, and right at the very start of it, there's this quote. And I don't know if it's a good quote or not, but it says, "You are not who you think you are. You are not who I think you are. You are who you think I think you are."
I'll have to read that.
Oh, Jay Shetty's Think Like a Monk is a very cool book. Very, very cool book. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that book. There's a lot of wisdom in that book, but that one was like, whoa, I have to stop and stare at the wall for a while. But I don't think we are who we think you think I am, but that's kind of who we think we are.
Yeah.
It's not who we think we are, and it's not, once again, it's not who you think you are. It's not who I think you are. You are is who you think I think you are, and that's not.
Yeah.
I don't think that's true, but that's really who you think you are is who you think I think you are.
Yes, I get that bit now. Yeah.
And that, yeah, when I first read it, I thought, oh yeah, that's true, but I don't think it's true, but I think that's who we truly think we are. It's not who we think we are. It's who we think you think we think we are.
Yeah.
And that that's one of the hard things about, like what I'm doing now. I'm somewhat in the public eye a little bit, to a greater degree, like in the horse community. Yes, I've got a bit of a presence or whatever, but like if you decide you want to be an actor or you want to play soccer or whatever, and you want to get to the top of the dung pile, you are aware that you might be somewhat of a famous person. But when you just are doing what you do, and then you end up to where, like say, like I've got 27 million views on YouTube. Some people, there's a number of people who know who I am and follow what I do and all that sort of stuff. Getting whole wrapped up in the external validation thing, there's no school they send you to for that. And, getting concerned about what other people think of you. You can have 500 people say something good about you, and that one person says something bad, and all of a sudden you're all bent out of shape because of that sort of thing. You know what I mean? And that's been a bit of a journey for me, getting to where I really am not concerned about what other people think about either what I'm doing with the horses or why I'm running my business or even who I am. Not that they know who I am because they've never met me, but you know what I mean? That's been probably a big struggle, and I keep giving myself like social media sabbaticals to where I've just got to step away from it for a while. And I'm thinking at some point in time, I'm just going to probably step away from it totally and still put content out, but not interact, because it's taken a fair toll on my mental health, really. And so, yeah, I'm thinking at some point in time, I'm going to kind of step away from it,
Yeah, I mean, you've got lots and lots of people. So I mean, one of your, not your closed group, but I joined the Facebook group, which was lovely, because you are one of the few people that actually answer back. When now somebody was asking the questions about the horse or a bit of guidance, you quite often used to answer, which was really nice. It's not waiting in the queue. You if you had time and you're there, you would answer, which was lovely. But I can see how the other side can come into that as well, because of so many people that can just sort of comment, and maybe comments you're not wanting, and things like that. I was going to say something to you, and I was just totally gone blank as I was talking there. It's gone.
It's gone. Yeah, and, I answered questions on Facebook every day for 10 years, and I really think it was. I mean, on the outside, I was doing it because I wanted to help people, but I think after a while, it took me a long time to realize it, but I think, you know what, that's a way of dissociating from the real world. I kind of get stuck on social media answering questions and kind of dissociate from the real world a little bit. So and I think that had quite an impact on my mental health. So I'm a little more cognizant about not feeling that if someone asks me a question, I have to answer it.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
About the only place that I do that religiously now is on my website. We built an identical community to Facebook on my website, so it looks just like Facebook. You put your little profile picture up there. The whole thing looks the same, except it's just for subscribers to the website, and they can ask me questions, whatever. And I do that. I answer every question on there every day. But as far as like on Facebook or whatever, because they've got people on Facebook have got no skin in the game. You know what I mean? They you spend all this time trying to help them, and they might not be ready to be helped.
Yeah.
And and it just it kind of wore me down for quite a while. But I kept doing it, thinking, no, I have to, and I've kind of got to the point now where I don't. Sometimes I get on my Facebook group and have a look around and I'll answer a question, but a lot of times I don't these days.
Mm.
There's like 40,000 people in the group, and a lot of them are fairly fluent in how I look at things with horses these days. So there's a lot of good answers, but there's a lot of bad answers. But I used to like go through every single comment, like delete that comment because that's not in line with what and I was just trying to control the whole thing too much. Like I don't want to have somebody give an answer that's not in line with what I just got to forget that crap and kind of step away from it. You can't control everything.
And if it doesn't fit, it doesn't feel right, then it's time to change, isn't it? That's the simplest thing, isn't it? When if you can do things like I absolutely loved this. It's such an experience, and like I said, I didn't have any knowledge. My computer skills is basic, and I found this StreamYard, which is so easy for me to use. I thought, okay, go with that. I found it's called Descript, so I can download the audios and then I can edit it from that. Because the first time I did some editing, I think it took me 5 hours to do 5 minutes. I was like, holy Moses, I haven't got, there's not enough hours in the day to do this. So I found this, and it still takes time because I listen to it in real time because I want it to flow. But I love it. I absolutely love it. But if that sort of subsided, then I would look for I'd be thinking, okay, so where am I going? Because it's no longer a passion, so it must be something else that I'm going for, or it's leading to somewhere else. But at the minute, I absolutely love it, and I get to meet some amazing people, as yourself and you. So when I sent you that text to ask you, or to Warwick, I had a message 3 times. So when I have to pay attention, I get something 3 times. So if I'm busy at work, I'm driving, and I get, how it works is somebody's name will pop into my head. If it's a horse I've known already and want to pass something else on, I'll get the person and then the horse will come in. So I normally sort of text. So I'll acknowledge it. Okay, that's the first time. And then I'll carry on doing what I'm doing. And then it'll come in again. I'll go, okay, that's the second time. And then the third time I was driving, and again, I literally just arrived home, and I'm going, why, what's he going to think? Oh, I'm just a groupie, I know him, he's famous. I want to interview him because he's famous. Why would he listen to me? And this little voice going, third time. So I said, right, I'll send it. So I sent you the text. I think I said something like, hi, how are you? I hope you don't mind me asking, but would you like to do an interview? This has come in my head 3 times, and it's my cue to pass it on, regardless of the outcome. But that was the thing. I had to do that. And you can say, oh, it doesn't matter what happens afterwards, but you hope for something. At that moment in time, when I sent that message, the outcome, there was no attachment to the outcome. No attachment.
That would be Kathy Price's intention, attention,
Yeah.
no tension.
Yeah. And I thought, right, there you go, off you go. And then so when you sent me back, I was like, I was excited.
Yeah, well, your name was on my radar. I knew you did something to do. I wasn't sure what it was, but I wasn't sure if you're an animal communicator, what it was, but I knew you were sharing this journey with the world at large, sort of thing. So yeah, when your name popped up, I was like, yeah, no worries.
Which was lovely, but as you were saying earlier about you think, what was that? You don't know me. What was that guy who said?
You are not who you think you are.
Yeah.
You are not who I think you are. You are who you think I think you are.
So that chatter in my head was the person I knew you're not that on a soul level, but my head was going, but he's this person. And that was like, and I've got to tell you this little funny thing, and then I'm going to let you go because we've been on about 1 hour 46, which is fine because I love doing long interviews. When I sent you a text to organize the date, I think I did a typo error, and I put the 25th or something, even though I said the 24th. And the reply was, you said the 24th first, now you said the 25th. Which one is it? Bearing in mind there's no tones to text. Now you sent that text, and straight away there was a trigger in me. And I was like, oh God, he's cross with me, or oh my God, I've upset him. And I was like, that's a trigger. Now, I'm a bit of used to be a people pleaser. When I say that, I want people to like me because that comes from a kid. I want to be liked. And my friends' parents, I want them to like me. It's important that they like me too. So when you sent that back, and especially strong character men, so I can talk to strangers. It's never been a problem. In fact, sometimes I prefer to talk to strangers. I've majority of the time been like that. Even when I'm shy, I find it easier to talk to strangers than to friends. But a strong men, so it could be to do with father figure. I have no idea, but I'm not analysing that. But I knew there was a trigger. When you said that, I instantly felt, and I was like, oh, for God's sake, get a grip. He's asking a question. So that I sent it back.
What I was really asking was, is it at midday on Thanksgiving? Because if that's the case,
yeah,
it won't work. That's
it won't work.
I know. 25th, because if it's 25th, I will have to do some other time.
Yeah, but it was. So it wasn't. It didn't. It was more of the trigger, and it was like, okay, so I've got to. I recognise that was a trigger, and no, that isn't you anymore. That isn't that little girl that you think, that trigger connected to. That isn't you anymore. So then okay, this is me now.
See, I think that's the key right there. You don't necessarily have to fix that, but when you can be aware of it,
Recognise
what I mean? Being aware that you are thinking that way, you can kind of be the observer of yourself rather than, I think that's the start of all the cool stuff, but you can't get any further along until at least you start to become aware of that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That
you see
aware that you're triggered, not just be triggered and not know you're triggered or whatever, you know what I mean? But I think, that becoming aware of that is the start to being able to solve that stuff if it
change
if it needs solving. But the big thing is just being aware of it,
Oh,
something I did want to tell you brought up a minute ago when
oh yeah,
what's really weird for me is, kind of like you said, well, I don't want to talk to you because you're famous or whatever, like, I'm not. as far as I know, I'm not. You know what I mean? Maybe to you I am, maybe I am, but I don't know I am. You know what I mean? It's just the weirdest thing it's funny, like my wife used to laugh, like we go to horse expos and like people come up to the booth and like fangirl, and she'd go, that's so weird. But then one day Robin was out, she listens to a lot of Brene Brown, like on audiobooks. And one day she was out walking, walking, I think, around the neighborhood. She was listening to Brene Brown. And all of a sudden she thought, if I ever got to meet Brene Brown, I would rush up to him like, oh, Brene, oh my God, you've changed my life. She goes, hang on, that's what they do to Warwick at the horse expos. So I feel like Brene Brown about those people feel about Warwick. Oh, I totally understand it now. You know what I mean? And especially, and it used to weird me out at the horse expos because I would get that a lot. But now that's when I was just helping people with their horses. Now I realize there's a whole lot deeper stuff to it. So when people come up and say, hey, thank you so much, you've changed my life or whatever, I'm like, well, yeah, thank you. I'm humbled to be part of your journey, sort of thing. Because I understand that that's really what the calling is helping people with themselves by helping them with their horses. And I think that's the great thing about horses. Like what you worked through to be able to sit on your horse and then actually walk off, that wasn't a horse thing. That was
No.
a part of you that you're working on. But the thing is, there's probably nothing else in your life that drives you enough to do that hard work on yourself except your horse. And I've seen it so much. Like people will not do the work for their husbands or their kids or their wives or their co-workers or their boss or whatever, but they'll do it for the horse. And then you get that carryover to where, everybody else in their life benefits from that as changes, not just the horse.
Absolutely. It's it's just endless. It connects to your friends of friends, because I don't know what that saying is, but you don't try and change somebody else, you change yourself, and that reflects back on whoever you're coming into contact with. Or you can smile at a stranger, and if you're in that right frame of mind, you smile at strangers, they pass and they give you a smile back. I mean, I've done it myself. It's lovely. You go away with a warm feeling because the stranger smiled at you.
And you made a change in their day too.
Yeah. And I remember you said, I am going to finish soon, Warwick, because I don't want to keep you too long. You were talking about when you was in the airport and you used to say to people, may you be happy. I remember listening to that on your podcast, and I was at work, and I happened to, because I have a part-time job as well. And I was working, and this person came in, and I could feel myself getting a bit grumpy. I thought, right, okay, here we go. So I was just sending out these vibes, and I certainly felt better. But yeah, it was interesting, and I do it when I remember. I mean, I say it sometimes in a different way, but
It's the same. It doesn't matter what you say.
Yeah, it's
and when I
started,
I got on a plane here recently for the first time in a year and a half, and I totally forgot about may be happy. So I'm walking to the airport and I'm walking along and I'm judging. Oh shit! Hang on. Maybe happy, maybe happy, maybe happy, maybe happy. Because it's just, you just get into those ruts. You get into those habits of doing that.
Yeah, you do. Well, we don't walk around with wings on our back with halos, and that's not life, is it?
No.
And when you was talking about your past life, because you're not the same person, that past life, you can see it with different eyes, but also you've experienced it. So when somebody else comes along and they are that person that you were or similar, you can recognize the bullshit. And I don't mean it, but you can recognize that because that was you. So you have a voice because you've experienced it and you know that. So that's important. To me, that's important because you saw what you were, what you are now, and you can see the difference because of that. If you'd been you now, maybe the lessons wouldn't be so profound. I don't know. I'm just
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it would have been. But yeah, it's pretty cool. And the thing you got to do is, like I said, look back on who it was and not judge that at all, because there's a British guy named Peter Crone. You ever heard of Peter Crone?
No, don't think so.
Peter Crone. He was a personal trainer sort of a guy. Came to the US and was a personal trainer, and ended up being a personal trainer for Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman when Tom Cruise was filming the all the Mission Impossibles, but he's really now into more of the mental side of stuff. He's not necessarily a personal trainer, but he basically says everything is perfect the way it is. Every experience you've had, where you're up to now, right now, this is where you were supposed to be. Don't wish it were different. It's all perfect the way it is. And yeah, he's a pretty cool dude.
Has he been on your podcast? Has he been on your?
No, he's a big deal. He wouldn't have been on my podcast.
So just because he's a big deal, it doesn't mean to say he won't be on your podcast. To Warwick
Well,
Schiller.
he hasn't been on my podcast, put it that way.
So you have to change that phrase, don't you?
Yeah. Well, I'm coming up on 1 million views in my podcast, so we're actually trying to get a big deal right now. And I just got a text while we were talking that someone I know knows a big deal. And while we're talking, the person had texted me back and said, "Yeah, I might be able to get that big deal for your podcast." So
Wow.
stay tuned. We might have a big deal.
There you go. On that, I think we should actually draw this to an end. It's been absolutely a pleasure, and you've made me feel so relaxed. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me on. It's been fun.
You're welcome. Is there anything you'd like to say before you go?
Words of wisdom. Well, you kind of touched on a minute ago, but the world is a reflection of how you view the world, and you create your own reality, and your mindset creates that reality. And if you can really change, as I like to say, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Absolutely. Thank you. That's a perfect. So I'm just going to pop you out if that's okay, because I'd like to say personally goodbye and thank you very much. So,
no worries. Thanks, guys, for joining me. It was fun.
Thank you. Wow, thank you so much, Warwick, for that. And thank you, everybody that's commented. There's so many comments, so I hope he gets to see these later. And I will reply to everybody. Sorry, I just didn't want to keep interrupting him because it's just lovely to hear him chat about life and where he is today. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful for your support. I'm buzzing. I'm buzzing, and I'm not actually shaking anymore, which is like wow. So hopefully talk to you soon. And yeah, thank you very much. Take care. Bye for now, and thank you.